Uther Pendragon is a legendary king of sub-Roman Britain and the father of King Arthur. A few minor references to Uther appear in Old Welsh poems, but his biography was first written down by Geoffrey of Monmouth in his Historia Regum Britanniae, and Geoffrey's account of the character was used in most later versions. He is a fairly ambiguous individual throughout the literature, but is described as a strong king and a defender of the people. According to Arthurian legend, Merlin magically disguises Uther to look like his enemy Gorlois, enabling Uther to sleep with Gorlois' wife Lady Igraine. Thus Arthur, the once and future king, is an illegitimate child. This act of conception occurs the very night that Uther's troops dispatch Gorlois. This theme of illegitimate conception is repeated in Arthur's siring of Mordred by his own half-sister Morgase in the later prose romances. It is Mordred who mortally wounds King Arthur in the Battle of Camlan. Epithet. Uther's epithet Pendragon literally means chief dragon, but in a figurative sense, foremost leader or chief of warriors. The name was misinterpreted by Geoffrey of Monmouth in the Historia to mean dragon's head, and further misinterpreted in the Lancelot Grail cycle to mean hanging dragon. According to Geoffrey and works based on his version, Uther acquired the epithet when he witnessed a portentous dragon-shaped comet, which inspired him to use dragons on his standards. According to Robert de Boron and the Grail cycle based on his work, it was Uther's older brother who saw the comet and received the name Pendragon, Uther taking his epithet after his death. Early Welsh poetry. Though the Welsh tradition of the Arthurian legend is fragmentary, some material exists through the Welsh triads and various poems. Uther appears in these fragments, where he is associated with Arthur and, in some cases, even appears as his father. He is mentioned in the circa 10th century Arthurian poem Parga Yvy Porthor, where it is only said of him that Mabon son of Modron is his servant. He is also memorialized with the death song of Uther Pen from the Book of Taliesin. The latter includes a reference to Arthur, so the marginal addition of dragon to Uther's name is probably justified. The Colloquy of Arthur and the Eagle, a poem contemporary with but independent of Geoffrey, mentions another son of Uther named Madog, the father of Arthur's nephew Eliflod. In Triad 28, Uther is named the creator of one of the three great enchantments of the island of Britain, which he taught to the wizard MENW. Since MENW is a shapeshifter according to culture Nolwenn, it might be that Uther was one as well. If this is so, it opens up the possibility that Geoffrey of Monmouth's narrative about Uther impregnating Igraine with Merlin's help was taken from a Welsh legend, where Uther changed his own shape, Merlin possibly being added to the story by Geoffrey. Uther's other reference, Triad 51, however, shows influence from Geoffrey's Historia. It follows Geoffrey's description of Uther as son of Constantine II, now called Custennin the Blessed, and brother of both Aurelius Ambrosius and Constans II. Historia Regum Britanniae. Uther is best known from Geoffrey's Historia Regum Britanniae, where he is the youngest son of King of Britannia Constantine II. His eldest brother Constans succeeds to the throne on the father's death, but is murdered at the instigation of his advisor Vortigern, who seizes the throne. Uther and his other brother Aurelius Ambrosius, still children, flee to Brittany. Vortigern makes an alliance with the Saxons under Hengist, but it goes disastrously wrong. Aurelius and Uther return, now adults. Aurelius burns Vortigern in his castle and becomes king. With Aurelius on the throne, Uther leads his brother in arms to Ireland to help Merlin bring the stones of Stonehenge from the to Britain. Later, while Aurelius is ill, Uther leads his army against Vortigern's son Paschon and his Saxon allies. On the way to the battle, he sees a comet in the shape of a dragon, which Merlin interprets as presaging Aurelius's death and others' glorious future. Uther wins the battle and takes the epithet Pendragon and returns to find that Aurelius has been poisoned by an assassin. He becomes king and orders the construction of 2 gold dragons, one of which he uses as his standard. He secures Britain's frontiers and quells Saxon uprisings with the aids of his retainers, one of whom is Gorlois, Duke of Cornwall. At a banquet celebrating the victories, Uther becomes obsessively enamored of Gorlois' wife Igraine, and a war ensues between Uther and his vassal. Gorlois sends Igraine to the impregnable castle of Tintagel for protection while he himself is besieged by Uther in another town. Uther consults with Merlin, who uses his magic to transform the king into the likeness of Gorlois and thus gain access to Igraine at Tintagel. He spends the night with her and they conceive Arthur, but the next morning it is discovered that Gorlois had been killed. Uther marries Igraine and they have a daughter called Anna. Morgase later marries King Lot and becomes the mother of Gawain and Mordred. Uther later falls ill and the wars begin to go badly against the Saxons. He insists on leading his army himself, propped up on his horse. He defeats Hengist's son Octa at Verulamium, despite the Saxons calling him the half-dead king. Quote, however, the Saxons soon contrive his death by poisoning a spring which he drinks from near Verulamium. Uther's family is based on some historical figures. Constantine on the historical usurper Constantine III, a claimant to the Roman throne from 407 to 411, and Constans on his son. Aurelius Ambrosius is Ambrosius Aurelianus, mentioned by Gildas, though his connection to Constantine and Constans is unrecorded. In popular culture, in John Boorman's film Excalibur, Gabriel Byrne plays an ambitious but somewhat obtuse Uther Pendragon, whose uncontrollable lust for Igraine, while necessary for the birth of Arthur, proves also his own undoing. In the BBC television series Merlin, Uther, played by Anthony Head, has banned magic in Camelot and slaughtered any who openly practiced the art. It is revealed his wife Igraine was unable to conceive. Nimue, a sorceress and friend, helped in the conception of Arthur. However, to keep balance in the world, a life had to be taken in exchange. Thus, Igraine died at Arthur's birth, and others guilt-spurred him to purge all magic from Camelot. His wanton cruelty eventually causes his ward Morgana, who possesses magic herself, to turn against him. She is later revealed as his illegitimate daughter, and covets control of Camelot from then on. In Series 4, Uther is wounded during an assassination attempt on Arthur. Merlin tries to heal him, but due to Morgana's meddling, the spell instead kills him. In the television series Camelot, Uther is poisoned by Morgana in the first episode. Here she is his daughter, but was sent to the convent after he married Igraine.